Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador Burns, thank you for your prior service and your willingness to serve in this capacity. I agree with you that if we act intelligently, the U.S. in concert with our allies in the West, we can compete with China. China, though, has advantages in terms of very long-term, very strategic thinking, authoritarian. They don't have the back and forth of elections, that type of thing. So they have utilized that long-term strategic thinking, while the West literally has not done much to counter their infiltration into our institutions, their stealing of our intellectual property since their entry into the WTO. And just like you to comment on how do we counter what they've done and how do we do that effectively?
Senator, thank you. I think it's a central question. We have to have a strategy to match China's strategy. I think that is beginning to develop over the last several years in the last three administrations, President Obama, President Trump, and President Biden. And as I said in my testimony, what distinguishes us and strengthens us is the fact that we have our alliance with Japan and our alliance with Australia and South Korea. And I've been involved in my past diplomatic career in intensive discussions with the Europeans. I think they're less united, perhaps, in the European Union right now, but I sense that the Europeans are shifting to understand the threat to them, as well as to us and our Indo-Pacific allies. So I think operating on an allied basis is the most important thing we can do. And sometimes that means we form institutions. So the Quad is an institution that both parties can be proud of. Republican and Democratic presidents have supported the Quad. And now President Biden is operationalizing at the head of government level, which we hadn't done before. AUKUS, 3 countries coming together. We need to build the institutions that are permanent and that take this policy that we're discussing this morning into the 2030s, because the competition with China will be multi-decade.
Yeah, I do want to address specifically their infiltration into our university systems, the Confucius Institutes, their investment in things like medical journals. It really concerns me. You know, there is so much we don't know, for example, about the coronavirus, so much we don't know about COVID. I really do, and I really want to get your take on a real potential fault line when we start learning more. For example, about the origin theory. I mean, I don't know whether it was lab leak or whether it's natural origin. People are starting to look into that. Obviously, there was a cover-up here for 18 months, and as a result, gave China a really good head start at bearing evidence. But back in March of 2020, you participated in a virtual event at Harvard's Kennedy Center, and you definitely were critical of China, saying that this was, an army exercise. But at the same time, you're very critical of President Trump for calling it the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. He said that we all know that's wrong. We all know that's racist. We all know that's not true. I guess I'm kind of wondering, how did you know? We still don't know. How are you so positive that this wasn't a lab leak theory? And have you changed your mind? Have you seen other evidence that would at least open up your mind to that prospect? Because if it is determined that it probably was not a natural origin and this did leak from a lab in Wuhan, that will have very serious geopolitical repercussions between our relationship with China.
Thank you, Senator. I want to agree with you briefly on the issue of students and exchanges. We ought to welcome Chinese students into the United States, but student visas are not a right. They have to be earned. Our laws have to be observed. There are some Chinese student applicants who have ties to the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, and China's intelligence services, and we should turn them down for visas. And we have to be clear about that. But we also have 375,000 students in our universities and secondary schools in your state, in my state, at my university, and we are better off having them in this country to learn about our democracy. On the coronavirus, the problem here is with China. The Chinese government withheld information very clearly from their own people and the rest of the world for about a month in late December and January of 2020. I have consistently criticized the Chinese government for that, and they deserve to be criticized. And they've been stonewalling all of us around the world since January of 2020, including this week when they refused to act to work with the World Health Organization's new investigative body to answer the question that you rightfully asked.
But again, my question is, are you still so certain that lab leak is off the table? Because you were very certain back then. You said it was, we all know that's not true. Have you changed your thinking on that? Because I think it's important, if you're going to be ambassador to China, that you have a more open mind on this than you exhibited back in March of 2020.
So, Senator, I spoke often about this issue of U.S.-China relations at that period of time. And I believe that that quote from the Kennedy School event was directed to President Trump's use of the term Wuhan virus, which I did not think would be effective with the Chinese government or Chinese people or people around the world. It had nothing to do with the origins of the crisis of the pandemic. My position has been all along and continues this day, we need to investigate. We don't know how this virus originated for sure. There are multiple theories, and the Chinese need to answer the questions. So I have never been a proponent of either one of these two options, but I think, as President Biden has said, we need to push the Chinese to come clean about what happened.
Well, thanks for that clarification. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.